Well, hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Building Technology Skills for Adult ESOL Learners. Today's webinar is generously sponsored by our good friends at Burlington English, and today we have Robert Breitbart, who's going to share a few words with us. Robert?
Well, hello there, and thanks to everybody for joining in this extra special partnership that we have, of course, going on for many, many years now with our friends at COABE. So thank you, James. Thank you to Sharon. Thank you to the entire COABE board. Really appreciate that all you do. And you're in for an extra special treat today with Jamie and Kirsten. We're so happy that they're going to be leading today's efforts. I know we're all going to walk away with just fantastic things that we can use right away with our learners. And of course, you know, in my many years now as Director of Educational Partnerships with all of you, I really got to commend you more than any time before. Wow, have you all just really just blasted through so many barriers this past year, and for really barriers that we've taken you know, as just a matter of fact for my 30 years in adult education, you really have just blown past them. And one of the biggest set of barriers we talked about is helping our learners, not just with their basic literacy skills, but of course their digital literacy skills. And so I'm so glad that you're joining in today to again take away you know, even more tips and strategies to take it to the next level. With Burlington English, obviously being a digital program, you know, we take everything to the next level, but we really help you, as you'll hear today as well, with these strategies and tips. We also help you take your learners from step one. And so if you haven't gotten a chance to see, you know, all the different components, because we have more than 50 you know, courses, mini courses, and actually now is soon, by the end of the year, into the hundreds for English for specific careers, especially. So, but really where we're really excited is that we help your learners from the very beginning. And that is our using your computer, you know, course that we have that really helps you walk your learners step by step from taking their very first steps, you know, in digital literacy. And so again, for many of you that have even used Burlington for a while, we ask you to reach out to my colleagues all across the country to help you really put this into what so many of you are talking about, which is really boosting your intake and orientation time with your learners. And really so many of this, particularly if you're going to continue serving learners even in a hybrid fashion, even post-COVID. And so you're going to rely even more on their digital capacity. Just know that, again, this using your computer really, as you can see on the screen, has elements that helps you walk your learners through step by step, you know, from, again, those very first emerging levels of digital literacy, you know, up to full capacity, to really, you know, really participate in all of the tech infused, you know, learning that you're going to be providing them. And as you know, Burlington English provides you with everything that you need, whether you're back in the building or soon to be back in the building, with in-class projectable lessons. For many of you, though, it's going to continue to be remote instruction or a blend of on-site and online. So obviously our in-class projectable lessons match everything that you're going to be needing to teach from your laptop from home. And then, of course, lastly, where we really shine is that ability to do true blended learning for your learners to be able to log off from your online classroom or drive away from the building and yet continue to have really robust asynchronous learning with our student lessons that are such a critical part of what Burlington brings to you in this true seamless blend of live instruction as well as students learning on their own. And again, the first steps, we help you with the using your component, using your computer component of Burlington English. So definitely please, you know, reach out to my colleagues. And also, I know many of you have also been taking the next steps and moving from paper and pencil to even online or computer electronic delivery of assessment. So if you'd also like to hear more about that, please also join us as a COABE sponsored webinar that we'll be doing on May 20th. Visit the same place where you registered for this webinar. Just know our good friends at CASAS will be partnering again to talk again about moving from paper to pencil to digital delivery. And so everything that you're going to be learning today, really can complement what my good friend Jane Iguez and I will be talking about on May 20th. And so again, from all of us at Burlington English, we just want to say thank you, but an extra special thanks once again to the COABE board, to Sharon Bonney, and to my good friend James. I'll turn it back over to you. Have a great webinar, everybody. Appreciate you.
Robert, thank you so much. We're definitely grateful for your partnership and friendship and everything that you do for the world of adult education and COABE. And it's been a great partnership over the years. Well, we're grateful. Okay, so today our presenters are Kirsten Witkowski. She's the Adult Education Coordinator and Instructor at Brea Public Charter School, and Jamie Sidonic, Technology Integration Coordinator at Brea Public Charter School. If everybody wants to say hello in the chat box, let us know where you're calling in from today. And you can submit your questions in the Q&A box. I think they're going to take some time at the end of the presentation to answer questions that you might have. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kirsten and Jamie. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or wherever your time zone is. We're so happy to have you with us today. Okay, let's get started. Okay. So today's webinar is Building Technology Skills for Adult ESOL Learners Amid a Pandemic. So yeah, once again, I'm Jamie, the Technology Integration Coordinator at Brea Public Charter School, and we're based in Washington, D.C.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kirsten Witkowski, and I'm an Adult Ed Coordinator at one of our 4 sites. I teach also Intermediate 2 English this year, and I'll be talking a little bit more later about the classroom applications.
Great. So a question for everyone in the audience today. It's been a very long year with a lot of challenges around teaching technology to our students. So we'd like to know what has been the biggest challenge in reaching students and being able to teach them the technology skills that they need for class or for work or really anything. So we'll take a minute. You can put your thoughts in the chat. What has been the biggest challenge in teaching technology skills this year? Maybe your students feel like this angry cat here at times. Okay, students trying to do it on a phone, yes. Right, no access to technology, language barrier. Okay, great. I'll wait until classes are in person again. Overcoming fear, not being in the room. Yeah. Trying to fix problems when you can't see their screen, big one. Broad range of starting points. Yeah. Broadband issues, certainly. Yeah, these are great. Yes, trying to explain how to navigate remotely to English language learners that often don't have the language needed to do that. Great. To unmute or to mute, as the case may be. Lack of tech skills from teachers. Internet and devices. Yes, finding appropriate materials. Great. Okay. All right, awesome. I'm gonna reshare. Okay, great. These are great. Not knowing where the address bar is, beginning ESL and the internet. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, we at Brea Public Charter School dealt with a lot of these similar challenges, so we can definitely relate. To kind of get the ball rolling, I'd like to share a video with you from one of our students that has been with us throughout this whole pandemic remote learning year. It is Nora.
Hello everyone, my name is Nora Reyes. I am here to tell you about how was my experience with Bria using technology. At the beginning, it was very hard for me because I never used computer before. All this was new for me. I decided to take classes with Bria. It was very helpful for me, and now it's more easy for me to use computer and to use technology. Thank you for all the teachers to teach me how to find any information on the internet and how to make my homework, how to find my feedback documents, any information on the computer is more easy for me now. I really happy to learn how to use technology, and I want to say thanks again for all your hard work for us. Thank you.
So thank you, Nora. Just a little quick background about Bria Public Charter School. We are a two-generation model, so we have classes for adult parents as well as their young children. So in the pre-pandemic times, the adults would be in their ESOL classroom, and you'd have infant, toddler, or preschool in their classrooms, and there'd be times they would come together. That's transitioned to a virtual model this year. So we have our two-generation program, which includes ESL, digital literacy, and parenting. We also have workforce development programs for medical assistant, child development associate. We also use the NEDP program for students that want to get their high school diploma. Bria families come from over 50 different countries and speak more than 30 different languages. So today, we'll talk a little bit about the background on our planning for this current school year. We'll take a look at the digital literacy skill acquisition of our students, how we utilized student scaffolded learning, teacher training to achieve this goal, and also the classroom application once these skills were learned. And we'll also talk a little bit about how we're going to use what we learned this year to build a hybrid model for the upcoming school year. And as James said, we'll leave some time at the end for questions, but if they come to you, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. Okay. So a little background just on Bria Technology by the numbers. At the start of the pandemic, we learned that very few of our students had computers. Most only had a smartphone. If that, many did not have reliable Wi-Fi connections. So at the start of the year, we distributed more than 800 devices to students and connected 213 families to Wi-Fi. Digital literacy has always been a part of our curriculum, so that gave us a bit of some help at the start. Students had some familiarity, for example, with Google Classroom, even though we were not using it to its full capacity. So we wanted to continue with Google Classroom to really maximize its features as much as we could. Students had some of that prior knowledge. One of the biggest benefits, particularly for our learners, is the interaction with Google Calendar. So this was a really simple way for students to see all of their assignments. We could connect everything from Classroom to Calendar. All of their Zoom classes, all of their assignments are all in one kind of easy to use place. For our workforce classes, we decided to use Schoology, which was a bit more of a robust learning management system and would be a really good experience for them to practice with. So in the winter, we took a survey of our adult ed students on a variety of things, but including their digital literacy progress. Survey found that 57% of BREA parents felt an increased confidence in supporting their children's remote learning, which was fantastic. But the number we were really excited about was 82% of BREA's adult students felt that their technology skills increased during the pandemic. So we're going to kind of start with a big zoom out, then we'll kind of zoom in. So some of the digital literacy skills our students have learned this year relate to Chromebook use. So for ESL, they all have Chromebooks. They can log in, connect to Wi-Fi, open programs and apps, use the Chrome Windows button to navigate between Zoom and other apps. On Zoom, and this is from basic 1 through advanced, students can turn camera on and off, microphone on and off. At the higher levels, they are using the raise hand feature. Most levels can join breakout rooms, click links. And more advanced levels are using Google Docs to open and edit. I think from basic 2 and above, students can read and reply to teacher comments in Google Classroom. So we started to kind of just see what have students been learning, and we were able to identify over 89 essential technology skills that students have learned in the first 2 terms of the year. These skills are helping them build autonomy, be a little more responsible for their learning. It's helping them in their classes as well as their children's learning. This is the document that we were using to track these skills. So we're updating it each term in terms of skills that have come about. You can see actually raise hand at the end of term 2, only our workforce group was doing it, but now some of the other ESOL levels are able to do that as well. And we're hoping to use this document to really build out our digital literacy curriculum for the coming year. We had one pre-pandemic, but we've learned that we really needed to update that to reflect our current situation. So those are the big skills, but we're going to take a step back and see sort of how we got there. One of the first things that we did at the start of the year was building new teams. So we created an instructional design team and a digital integration team. So these groups worked to really help build our new remote learning platform. So, so I'm a member of the digital integration team. And so this is a resource that I share with teachers. Sometimes teachers don't know what is a technology integration coordinator. So some things that our team offers, office hours, helping teachers think through ideas, brainstorm how we can use technology for a particular learning objective, demonstrating ed tech tools, modeling a lesson, increasing collaboration, creativity. So just some of the different ways that our teams can help. So let's take a look at the student support that we provided this year. So one of the really big things was scaffolded learning, digital skill by digital skill. We started the year on phones. And as someone mentioned in the chat, that has limitations, but smartphones were something that students were familiar with. So it was a really great place to start. And from there, maybe we would do one skill of mute and unmute. Once that was mastered, we move on to camera on and off, then moving on to typing your name in the chat. So it was really slow and step by step. And then we transitioned from phones over to the Chromebook. Another really important thing was providing video training on Chromebook, Zoom, and other essential programs. The videos we made have no words, no dialogue, so they are completely visual, so they can be used across all levels. We also created multilingual paper guides for student reference. So for any language that was represented, we had a guide in their language for showing them how to connect to Zoom, turn on their Chromebook, etc. In collaboration with the IT department, we established a multilingual help desk line. So students can call 5 days a week, 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., and speak one-on-one with a technician to work through any technology problem that they may have. Another really invaluable tool this year was investing in tools like GoGuardian and Chrome Remote Desktop. What you see here is a screenshot of GoGuardian, the teacher view. So as the teacher, I can see all of my students' screens and what exactly is happening. If they are in the wrong place, which happened quite a bit, I can actually send a Chrome tab to their computer that will pop up. So they will be on the right place. I can annotate to show students, click here, click on this button. I can close tabs if they get to the wrong place. It's been a really invaluable tool for when we want to do more complex technology work during Zoom class. So I want to show a couple of examples. So this was one of the videos we made on showing students how to set up their Chromebook. So that was
Amy?
provided to all students. Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, there are some questions about how did we distribute those videos to students?
So that's a great question. So actually I didn't mention at the start of the year, we created WhatsApp groups for all students. So these videos were shared via WhatsApp. So students could use their phones as their guide essentially while they're setting up their Chromebook. So they could use their phone as a resource. So that was the main way that we distributed the videos, was via the student WhatsApp groups. Any other questions? Lori?
That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So this nice things, they can watch this, 50 times if they need to. Some other examples. So this was the paper guide. This is instructions on how to log into your Chromebook in Amharic. And these guides were distributed with the laptops. So when students came to pick up their laptops, socially distanced, these guides would be in there with the appropriate language. And here's a Spanish guide on how to turn in homework in Google Classroom. Another thing we did that was new this year for students was an orientation system. Previously, it was rolling enrollment. Now students could join the program at 4 different times, and they would go through a 1 or 2 week long orientation process. And during this orientation, students would learn the basics of Chromebook use, Zoom, and Google Calendar, get some practice. We offered it at a lower level and an upper level to further differentiate. And we continually updated the orientation with lessons learned from previous terms. So, for example, in the first term, a lot of students reported that, my Chromebook won't turn on, I'm not sure what's happening. And we realized that students were not plugging in their computers. So we added to the orientation, you need to charge your cell phone, your laptop also needs charging, and kind of reinforced that message. Oops. So that's a little bit of work we did on the student side. Another really key component was teacher training. And someone mentioned earlier in the chat, there's a wide range of teacher experience when it comes to technology. At the start of the school year, we did a summer intensive on how to teach effectively on Zoom. So we did the nuts and bolts of share screen and breakout rooms, but we thought a lot about how do we bring the BRIA experience, the community, the culture of the classroom into the digital realm, whether it's different routines, doing exercise, having interactive components. So we focused a lot on that. We were having weekly professional development for the first term or two. And probably one of the favorite parts of my role is evaluating and researching new technology tools, tools that can help teachers provide good feedback, increase interaction, and I would kind of roll these out to teachers in a scaffolded way. Something that we try to do as well is having 2 teachers in each virtual ESOL class. The lead teacher is responsible for content, and the other can deal with the more technical aspects, admitting students, muting students as needed, setting up breakout rooms, and that's been really great when we've had the opportunity to do it. The digital integration team also, as I mentioned earlier, is always happy to push into classes and provide support. If a group is going to do a speaking assessment, it's a lot of moving parts, so we'll join the class to help the flow. We also offer one-to-one support with teachers. There was a lot of collaboration within levels, so at the basic, intermediate, advanced levels, but also across levels. So there was actually, I would say, an increased collaboration and communication compared to when we were in person. We're at 4 different sites, so oftentimes we were a bit siloed, but this model actually increased our collaboration. So our different levels would have a weekly meeting to discuss content, technology concerns, really anything that's going on. We tried a few different professional development techniques this year because we found some teachers learning a new piece of technology in a live webinar or a professional development rather is not always the best method for everybody. So we did some different styles. One thing we tried, which was successful, was self-paced professional development. So my team and I created self-paced professional development through a Nearpod or through videos and Google Forms that teachers could do on their own time and take as much time as they wanted or needed. Some were very basic, how to use Google Classroom. Others were more advanced, like the one here, how to create community using the Chromebook. We also offered opt-in professional development. So for some teachers, if they I know how to use Google Classroom, I know how to use Zoom, I'm good. I don't need to try anything new or fancy, and that's great. Other teachers really love technology and they want to try the latest thing, try a new tool. So we kind of differentiated there where if teachers want that extra professional development, they can have it, but it's not required. And we also offered office hours. So teachers can just schedule a time to meet, discuss in a sort of low pressure environment. So this is our materials index. So all of the teacher materials and trainings that we've created are all in one Google document. So sort of a repository for professional development. So if a teacher needs help or needs a reference, they can just come here and get what they need. We also have a tab for student-facing resources. So, I need to teach my students how to restart their Chromebooks. You don't need to start from scratch. You can just go here. There's a slide deck that you can take and use in your classes. So we were really happy to put this document together with everything that we've created throughout the year. But to finish up my section, just a couple of reflections. This is Maribel. She is the instructor for our Spanish literacy group. And she is going to talk a little bit about the digital skills that these students were able to learn this year.
En nuestra clase de alfabetización, los estudiantes aprendieron a iniciar la sesión en su computadora, a introducir sus contraseñas, a usar sus teclados. Aprendieron lo que es una ventana, una pestaña, un link. Aprendieron a entrar a sus calendarios, a buscar sus tareas, a acceder a las clases de Zoom y también aprendieron a escribir su nombre en el chat, a activar y desactivar sus micrófonos y sus cámaras.
Okay. And finally, this is a reflection from Jose, also known as Mr. G. So that's the gentleman there that the blue arrow is pointing to. He had a conversation with his teacher, Elaine, about sort of his experience this year with remote learning. Oops.
I was talking to Mr. G today, and in his conference, I was like, how are you doing learning at home? What's some stuff you learned about? And he gave me so many good gems about technology. He said, he was like, well, it's been almost a year since the pandemic started. And when the pandemic started, I thought to myself, like, oh, well, there goes a while. Like, I'm not going to be learning for a while. Like, I'm not going to have class. And then even at the beginning of this year, he was like, I wasn't sure I could do it. Like, I remember sitting on the phone for hours at a time trying to get this done, and I thought, like, I can't do it. And he was like, but now here we are, like a year later, like I haven't lost a year at all. I've learned so much. Like, I can use a computer. I had never touched a computer like individually, like independently before this. And he's like, and I can do the homework by myself. I don't have to call Bria every time. I don't have to call you every time. Like, he's like, I can do things on my own on the computer now, and it's amazing. And I was like, it is amazing. You have done so much.
All right. Yeah, so that's very, very sweet to hear from Mr. G there. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Kirsten now.
Thank you, Jamie. I love hearing that reflection because it's such a good segue into looking at what this actually looks like in the classroom. So I'll be talking about some of the classroom applications within our ESOL program specifically, and we will look at 3 different areas. First, how did we foster students' independent study skills? How were we able to make our Zoom classes more interactive and dynamic? And then that we were able to provide opportunities for students to engage in project-based learning. So first we'll look at these independent study skills. So as Jamie mentioned, we recognized that at the beginning of the year, we needed to spend more time on digital skills, sometimes at the expense of class time focused on English. And so we spent a lot of class time practicing these skills and provided asynchronous work that required students to use these skills independently several times a week. One of the ways that they were using these basic skills on a daily basis was navigating Google Classroom, or in many cases, just Google Calendar, which, as Jamie mentioned earlier, was our chosen LMS. So one of the benefits of this, in addition to digital skills, was that it provided basic calendar literacy practice for students at our lower literacy levels. And it also allowed students, or required them really, to practice these basic digital skills of recognizing a link, opening a link, and then closing a tab or maybe navigating between multiple tabs. So on their calendar view, students could see all of the Zoom class options. They had the option to attend one of 3 times of Zoom class each day. And they could also find their single weekly asynchronous assignment posted at the top of their calendar along sort of the days that it was open for that week. One of the features of Google Calendar that we really love in Google Classroom is the View Your Work page. So on the students' calendars, there is a recurring event posted on the day that their asynchronous assignment is due that links directly to their View Your Work page in Google Classroom. And what this page shows is a list of all of their assignments, the due date, as well as the status. So it shows if this assignment has been turned in, if it has a final grade, or if it's missing. And students can also find comments from their teachers and respond to them. So in order to navigate this page, students needed to be able to recognize icons. So for example, we can see that there's an icon here for comments and for attachments, as well as sort of basic buttons to navigate it, to open and close different assignments. Over here on this side is where you can see sort of the results or the status of each assignment. And what we really loved about this is that it allowed students to monitor their own progress and classwork in a way that wasn't even possible when we were in person. And we hope, or we believe, that this helps with students' persistence as well, because they can sort of see all the work that they've done and kind of keep track of their results, their scores, kind of for the first time, because we don't really use grades in our program. So this is sort of the closest thing to grades we've been able to offer them. The calendar also has a lot of resources for self-study. So we would post the Google Slides for each Zoom class at the end of the day, as well as various extra links for extra practice. Teachers would create Quizlet sets, Kahoots, as well as sort of a second try again version of the weekly assignment, so that students could repeat it as many times as they wanted to and learn from their errors. And again, this was a really great benefit that we found we could really offer to students virtually, much better than we were able to do when we were fully in person. And we really think that it is promoting their ability to learn independently and study on their own outside of class time. All right, so next we'll look at Zoom class. So the first thing that is important to note is that in-class student engagement was really enhanced by the student's ability to access Zoom on their Chromebook. As many of you mentioned, accessing Zoom or virtual learning just on a smartphone does have its limitations. And so we really pushed students to use their Chromebook as much as possible. That said, I will say that students still access Zoom class on their phones. They might be at work, or they might be on the bus or on the metro, traveling to and from work. And so we do sort of keep that in mind when designing materials. So we always have options or alternatives for those students. But for those that were able to access Zoom on their Chromebook, they could then use any of these modes of engagement to really choose how to participate in class. And we were able to then capture more student participation and engagement once they were able to do things like control their microphone, their camera, use Zoom chat, and also use polls. Furthermore, it left their phones available as sort of a second instructional tool. So we would play Kahoot live during class. We could send students resources to use during class to their WhatsApp class groups. So they'd be on Zoom, but then looking at their phone for some kind of content, maybe listening to an audio file, looking at a picture. And we also could use phones for in-class assessment. So often for speaking assessments, students might send a message to their teacher on WhatsApp, a voice message, or conversely, they might look at something on their phone and record a video on the computer talking about it. The next area that we saw sort of huge improvement once students had really mastered those basic digital literacy skills was the ability to make breakout rooms so much more interactive. So one of the biggest challenges that we faced was, how can we give students interesting content that they can use and look at on their own in a breakout room when the teacher is not there to share the screen and provide that content. So we spent a lot of time teaching students how to click on a link in the chat, and then in particular, how to navigate between the screen that then opens in a new web page and coming back to Zoom. The Chromebooks do have a specific button on them that we found was much easier to teach the students to use that button than to sort of understand tabs. But if they're using something that's not a Chromebook, they can also learn the skill of either using the taskbar at the bottom or navigating between tabs. So what we eventually did once they'd mastered these skills is used a lot of Jamboards to share this content with students. Jamboard is a Google tool that's sort of like a digital whiteboard, but very simple. And it was a tool that we used to either send students just the task instructions so that when they got to the breakout room, they knew what they were doing, they could reference it. We would also use it to create new content for them to discuss. And we love Jamboards because they have multiple pages, so it allows for student choice and differentiation. So I'll show you two quick examples. This is from a class where students were working on paragraph writing, and they were going to be editing their own writing with teacher feedback, but first we were practicing learning and identifying these basic editing symbols. So in the breakout room, they could all look at this document and talk together about what corrections they would make. If they had extra time, they could then go to the next page and do another example. And so we could create sort of scaffolded materials in which it got increasingly difficult as the slides went on. Another example of a fun game was sort of making, if you're familiar with the ESOL game, password or hot seat, trying to make that doable in a breakout room. So we gave students this Jamboard so that they could look at the vocabulary. We were studying job titles and job duties. Think of one and then describe their job duties while their classmates looked at the pictures and then tried to guess which job title they were describing. So again, this just made breakout rooms more fun, more interactive than simply working on a textbook exercise, which was the only other material that they had sort of physically at their disposal. We also did use Google Docs for collaborative writing as well. All right, the third area that really sort of supported our Zoom classes was in the creation of various types of exit tickets. So as you know, exit tickets help the teacher get a snapshot of individual student learning. And we found that really it's so much more important even in the digital realm, because for many students, it's just impossible for the teacher to really see how much they're learning and how much they're getting from a virtual class. And so having that exit ticket is sometimes the only time that the teacher can hear from that student and that the student can sort of feel heard. So in addition to sort of the standard Zoom poll or send something in the chat, we were able to send Google Forms via a link in the chat, as well as use Screencastify Submit. So this is sort of has become the most popular exit ticket tool, I think, at BRIA. And we really like Screencastify Submit because it's a very simple video recording tool that only requires students to click maybe 3 times, do 3 clicks. They don't need to sign in, they don't need to make an account or remember a password. And it also connects directly to Google Drive. So here's an example of what the students would see on their end, which has the prompt for the exit ticket, as well as just this huge record button. So in this example, this is a basic 2 class. They were learning about daily activities. And the exit ticket was just to sort of repeat the vocabulary words so that the teacher could hear their pronunciation. And this is what it looks like once the students have recorded their video.
Get up, take a shower, get dressed, eat breakfast, eat dress, go to work.
Okay, so you get a sense of what that looks like. And it's very easy to use. Students, once they got into the rhythm of doing it, it became such an easy tool for them to record videos using this technology tool. All right, so our final area that we saw a lot of student growth in, and we were just so excited to be able to do this in a digital realm, was to do some amount of project-based learning. I won't go too much into sort of the benefits of project-based learning, but I will say that we found there were sort of some specific benefits of using project-based learning in a virtual environment. And one of those was really in this area of perseverance and student motivation. So compared to doing sort of an in-person presentation in a classroom, recording a video of yourself doing a presentation allows students to listen to their own language production, decide whether they want to re-record, practice, and really perfect it. And they're very motivated to create sort of this finished, published product. And for many students, it was the first time they had ever heard themselves speaking English. And so it created this awareness of their own language, as well as pride and increased self-confidence that, wow, I can really talk in English for a whole minute. And for some students, it lowered their affective filter. So they've maybe found it much easier to record a video of themselves in their room, perhaps with the camera off, than to do a presentation in front of a classroom of their peers. So we are going to look at an example of a video project that our Intermediate 2 students did earlier this year. The sort of prompt for this video was to describe a family tradition. And the pre-work to this was that the students learned about different religions and some vocabulary for sort of different celebrations and different holidays across different religions.
Hi, my teachers and my classmates. Today I introduce about my family celebrates holiday. My family celebrates Eid al-Fitr April 12th. Eid al-Fitr is a Muslim religious holiday. We celebrate 1 or 3 days. We go to Washington, D.C. First Hijra Islamic Center with my husband, my son, and my parents. For that day, I will make a lot of Ethiopian traditional and sweet dish. For example, doro wet, ክትፎ, ዳቦ, እንጀራ, cookie, and cake. Then my favorite thing is to decorate the house. Also, charity to the poor is highly emphasized value in Islam. That means it is a day of charity. On that day, I will giving gift to any of her. I think you understand about a little bit my family holiday. Thank you.
So as you can kind of see in this video, students are practicing many skills, including writing and speaking, because they wrote their script and then practiced it. They learned how to use their computer webcam and how to record on a digital platform. In this case, they also used Screencastify Submit, so it was a tool they were already familiar with from their exit tickets. They did editing and revising, and then of course submitted their final product. And at the end, we were able to compile all of the student videos into a Padlet and share the link with them so that they could watch all of their classmates' videos and respond to them as well.
Kirsten, would you want to share, there's a question, students that don't want to be seen on camera or can't?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did have some students that didn't want to be seen on camera, and they simply covered their camera, turned off their camera, and still recorded the audio. And that was perfectly acceptable. All right, so just to kind of wrap this up, we asked students at the end of the project to share with us what did they find to be the most difficult thing about the project, what were they proud of, and what was their favorite part. So I will share maybe just one of these reflections. And just a heads up, there are some children in the background, so you'll hear that.
Hello. For me, I think it's difficult to speak in front of the camera, but the pronunciation too, because sometimes I don't pronounce very well the words, but it's okay. We are learning about that. I feel proud, happy for my video. My favorite part when I watch the video finishing. I feel good. I think this project was very nice for all the students because we can practice more speaking English. We learn about the classmate. It's a good thing, a good project. It's very good.
So many students shared about how it was challenging, but they also, that was what they felt most proud of, was that they overcame that challenge and they were able to record a video for the first time. Sorry. All right, so just as a very brief review, sort of what we've seen our students gain over the course of this year is that they have become much more acclimated to digital learning. And this kind of prepares them for any future participation in workforce training programs or higher ed that will likely have an online component, as well as parallels what their children have been using this year and will probably continue to use in their schools. They're, of course, learning transferable digital literacy skills, not only in Zoom, but just in the basic functions of navigating a computer or the internet, and really have been able to utilize more dynamic Zoom classes and enhanced resources for independent learning, which we hope is something that will transfer over to when we are back in person or using a hybrid model.
And just so thinking about next year, we're taking kind of the best of what we've learned this year. We want to continue having devices for all students, continuing to use the learning management system, keep using student videos, whether it's for projects or assessments. We've used a lot of them for assessments, which has been great. We also did virtual student conferences, which was really successful, very easy. We had very high attendance rates. And as I mentioned, we're going to really try to enhance our digital literacy curriculum based on what we've learned this year. So yeah, I guess it's a good time to take some questions with the few minutes we have left. I know there was a question from a while ago on orientation that I can take. Okay, so the orientation, so it was a short-term regular class. So if a student is signed up to start in term 3, the week before or 2 weeks before, they would attend 3 times a week their orientation class like they would the regular ESL class. So they got to know each other and they got to continue to kind of build on their skills. And then they would receive information. Their Google Classroom, their calendar would basically populate. So we would teach them this, and then they knew, okay, check your calendar, then you're going to see your Zoom classes and your assignments populate. I don't know if there's any resistance to this pre-class. I don't think so. Students seem pretty excited to join, and because I was in some of the orientation classes and they were really very into it, and it was really helpful to kind of like build that sort of community before going into the big class, you know. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that on orientation.
No, I think it just from the teachers end, it was extremely helpful. The students that came from orientation were sometimes better prepared they had better technology skills than the students that started at the beginning of the year and never went through orientation. So it was very successful.
Okay, great. And a question, did you increase the amount of teachers that were observed for quality control? I believe the observation levels were roughly the same, but there, like I said, there's just a lot more communication perhaps than in the past. We also had middle states doing their observation for us at the start of the year, so we got a lot of feedback pretty like early on from them. And Kirsten, I don't know if you want to take this one, how we use screen share when there are several groups.
Yes, I'm not quite sure what the question is. I don't know if anyone wants to clarify. Do you know, Jamie, what?
I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe groups? With like breakout. I don't know if it's like with breakout groups or not positive. Yeah. If anyone wants to, you can.
Yeah, if anyone wants to clarify that question, I'm more than happy to explain it. But I would say the teacher is only sharing the screen when everyone is all together in the same room, and then if students are going into breakout rooms, then the students are clicking on a link and opening that document on their own screen. And we have now in the past week gotten to the point where we are teaching students how to share their screen in the breakout room. So each time at least one student is able to share their screen.
Okay, so yeah, so it was breakout rooms. Great. So hybrid classes, we are figuring it out as we speak. But what it looks like right now is we're going to have 2 days on site and 2 days virtual. So we're not going to be doing the like live and remote at the same time, but students will have 2 days in person, 2 days remote, but that is still a bit TBA. What funding sources help get Chromebooks for adults? Usually school systems that are K-12 get all their resources. Would you like to take that one, Kirsten?
Yeah, I'll just speak to that. That's because Bria is a public charter school. That is something that I believe the city of DC made the decision to provide additional funding for all schools, all public schools in DC, so that they could provide devices to their students. And because we are a public charter school, we also fall under that funding. So we recognize that that is sort of an unusual benefit that we have that many other adult ed programs do not have.
Damaged or lost Chromebooks. So this actually just came up very recently, but we did have to set, and that was actually, that's part of the collaboration between my team, digital integration, and IT, is actually setting up policies and procedures. So if a Chromebook is damaged or lost, there is like a sort of a set replacement fee. If the student can't pay that fee, they can work with student services to see what alternatives there are. But we did have to set up sort of a policy, a fee structure. Students sign an agreement when they take their Chromebook that this is understood, and we again put that in multiple languages. I think we can probably do maybe one more. I know there's a poll that needs to be done. How long from orientation to entering the class? It's like a weekend. So they finish the orientation on the Friday, Monday they enter their class. So very quick turnover time. I think, Deborah, this is a follow-up question on Screencastify. It's a Chrome extension. It's available on any computer. If you go to the Chrome Web Store, and you can download Screencastify. The main part of Screencastify is actually a screen recorder, but it has an additional function, Screencastify Submit, that we're using. The free version allows you to do one assignment at a time. The paid version, you can do unlimited assignments. And our classes are generally 90 minutes long. Some are 60 minutes with 30 minutes of available teacher time. And I think we might need to leave it there.
I will say that you can reach out to us via email. Our contact information is listed here. And I know that there's been a request for resources, so I'm not sure the best way for us to get that to participants, but maybe we can work with James to figure that out.
Yeah, I think we're maybe through Mariah perhaps, but yeah, we'll definitely get resources out to you. And like Kirsten said, please feel free to email us anytime. We're all in this together. We're all kind of figuring it out as we go along. So thank you so much for spending part of your Friday with us. And yeah, we look forward to chatting.
Kirsten, Jamie, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. It was fantastic. Robert, thank you again for your sponsorship. Just as a reminder, these webinars would not be available to our members if it wasn't for friends and partners like Burlington English and Robert. So we're grateful. We're thankful for your partnership once again. I want to thank everybody for participating today. If you could just take a minute to fill out the poll that I launched. And in regards to the materials, yes, we can post those materials or the presentation along with the webinar on coabe.org. So there'll be a replay posted along with the materials posted for everybody. And that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you again, Jamie and Kirsten. Fantastic presentation. I hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend. Thank you so much.